we started to see all kinds of very bad things.
By this point, I realized there was something wrong.
It wasn't getting better, it was getting worse.
They were underneath the floor. They were in the walls.
What the hell is going on here?
It was just overwhelming. Nauseous was the way I felt.
You couldn't get me out of the place fast enough.
3 different families fighting 3 different infestations. Home is a sanctuary, but invaders don't respect boundaries. Our 4 walls provide all they need to survive, to thrive, and to multiply. And when they move in, home will never feel the same again. Will and Sandy Rubenstein own a summer camp.
I get to watch children grow and mature and learn something new about themselves that they never had a chance to discover.
You get to be outside, you get to be with kids. It's the greatest job on earth.
We take the responsibility of looking after kids incredibly serious. In the camping world, they say in loco parentis, you know, when they're here, we're their parent. But we live here, this is our home. So for the time that they're here, the 7 weeks, we eat, breathe, and sleep just for these children. My husband and I do nothing more for the 7 weeks, but think about these kids. They're living in our home. We think of the cabins as a guest room. And when they're here, we take care of them as though they were our own.
It's the start of the busy camp season, and Sandy and Will are getting the 200 new arrivals settled in. With so many kids and counselors to manage, the days are never dull.
One day, one of our counselors in training approached us. He was experiencing some itchiness, like a rash or some bites. And in the beginning, we really weren't sure what it was. It was something unusual. We thought it might be mosquitoes or just the season of Cape Cod. And initially, when we saw what he was having, we chalked it up to an allergy to the detergent from the laundromat.
We really just sort of brushed it off as an allergic reaction or just typical mosquito bites. Everybody reacts differently to bug bites.
They treat the counselor's bites with antihistamine cream, hoping it'll stop the itching. But a couple of days later, he's back.
The camp counselor came back to us with increased amount of bites on his body. And because they were different from the first time he complained until the second time he complained, sometimes they were on his arms, sometimes they were on his legs. It wasn't consistent in the same location.
The bumps seem worse than mosquito bites.
He was getting more and more miserable. He was having trouble sleeping, he was itching constantly, and he was really distraught.
And he's not alone.
A new group of kids presented some similar kinds of itching and bites and unpleasantness. He had never really come across these kinds of symptoms before.
We couldn't figure out what was causing them to itch.
Now we really started to get alarmed because this was not just one person, this was now multiple people.
Will checks the campers' records for clues.
As we started to piece it together, we realized they all lived in the same building.
With all the affected kids coming from just one cabin, Will and Sandy dig deeper into what's going on.
We took time to just walk around the building. We climbed underneath the building, which are just dirt crawl spaces, to see if we could find any remnants of a nest. We came up absolutely with nothing.
The following morning, the mystery deepens as more and more kids who've spent time in Lodge 8 show up with the same itchy bites.
We were just beside ourselves. It was sickening.
As we got more and more concerned, we contacted our pest control operator.
They looked at the beds, they looked around the area. They just couldn't find anything.
We were increasingly worried because we didn't have a good answer.
It's terribly frustrating to watch kids be uncomfortable. It's my job to take care of them, and we couldn't figure out what was making them itch. A day at camp, when you have campers here and they're living here, a day at camp is like a lifetime. It was, every day felt like it was a decade because we just could not figure out what was going on. What we did was to seek medical help.
A doctor comes to the camp to examine the kids. The diagnosis is a shock.
Scabies.
Scabies is a microscopic mite that digs into human flesh to reproduce.
The female will burrow beneath the skin, laying eggs and pooping as she creeps along, making a burrow. This causes a very intense, itchy rash. It is spread easily from person to person by direct contact.
It seemed like it was something that was dirty. We didn't know where we got it. How did it happen? How could we avoid it? It was a blow to us.
Just hearing the word scabies was gross.
To tell a parent of a 10-year-old boy that her son had scabies, it was impossible. But we had to do it. Every single parent got a personal phone call by Will or I. When you're a camp director, you don't have time to react. You just have to get into motion to fix it. There's no time, you're just moving forward. There's really no time to really think about it. And so we didn't really allow ourselves the time to have an emotion. We just needed, if this was the diagnosis we got, somebody gave us some sort of conclusive information, and we were just in the motion to make these kids feel better.
Fortunately, the treatment for scabies is straightforward.
We had to lather every single child with a chemical.
Scabies mites can also live on bed linen, so Sandy and Will replace all the sheets in Lodge 8.
We were removing all of the bedding and getting it down to the laundry while the kids were taking these special showers.
We were on a mission. We did laundry, we bought new linens, and we spent hours vacuuming every crack and crevice of the lodge so that we can ensure that there was nothing left living in the building.
Sandy and Will's quick response works.
There stopped being noise about bites, and kids stopped being itchy, and all of a sudden we felt like we had a victory. The problem was behind us.
At that point, we were in the middle of the summer, so lots of kids left camp.
With the infected kids treated and gone, Will and Sandy prepare for the next round of campers.
The numbers of kids in each building change, so this is typically a time when we move beds around in camp.
Then a new group of kids started. Shortly thereafter, kids were getting bitten that were in different buildings than our original building.
Sandy and Will are beginning to wonder if something else is taking over their camp.
It was just overwhelming. Nauseous was the way I felt.
We felt fear because it was spreading to other buildings, and we were sort of waiting to hear almost on a daily or every other day basis if there were new cases and new bites. And then also there was just a disappointment that we were failing. We were failing our kids and our families and not fulfilling our obligation, which is to keep kids safe.
In Phoenix, Arizona, a young family is beginning a new chapter in their lives. Eric Lane, fiancée Abra Schultz, and their 2 young children have moved into their first apartment.
We wanted, basically our own independence. We felt it was just that time in our lives that we had to get our own place. It was time to stop mooching off mom and dad.
When we first viewed the place, we liked it a lot, so we felt it would be the perfect place to raise our family.
The apartment is modest, but Abra wants it to look its best.
I am OCD about cleaning. Everything has to be done a certain way.
It's not easy keeping the place spotless.
Obviously, we have 2 kids. We can't keep everything completely clean, but we do what we can.
Abra notices that piles of dirt keep appearing in places she knows she's already cleaned.
I thought, well, maybe it was something was coming off of our patio. Just thought it was like normal wear and tear.
And Eric has noted something else about the apartment building.
All of our neighbors would stay a month or 2 and then they'd leave. So we never had the same neighbors for more than a month.
Eric has no intention of moving out. His family is just getting settled.
We had gone in to make breakfast. And I pick up the pan. There's a bug on the pan. Killed it, threw it in the toilet. It was just no big deal. You know, you live in an apartment, you gotta expect bugs.
It's disgusting to know that there's bugs crawling around. I would clean the house before that once a week. Then I was doing it to like 2 or 3 times a week.
But the more Abra cleans, the more she notices that strange dirt piles keep reappearing.
We thought that it was dust or dirt that had gotten collected in the corners of the apartment. It was just no big deal.
Abra is now cleaning the floors every day. Her dream apartment is starting to make her feel uneasy. One morning, Eric notices something isn't right about the pump in his fish tank.
I picked up the pump to clean behind it. And then they were everywhere.
And we're like, what the hell is going on here? These are roaches.
Will and Sandy Rubenstein have a mystery to solve. A new group of kids at their summer camp is covered with tiny bites.
We were beside ourselves. Kids were waking up every morning with these bites, and they were so uncomfortable and they were itchy.
A week ago, the Rubensteins treated a group of campers for scabies. The lodge they were sleeping in was deep cleaned. The kids seemed to be cured of the problem, and they went home. Since the 2 groups of kids never had contact, it's unlikely an infection could have been passed on.
Scabies cannot live very long after the female has burrowed into your skin, laid her eggs, pooped, and died. So after treatment, you would not expect to see ongoing new disease.
That worried us because we didn't have an answer that we could really back up with evidence.
It was sickening to us to see them be so uncomfortable and to not know why.
That night, they get some answers. The campers in Lodge 8 wake each other when they realize they're being bitten. Their flashlights reveal tiny insects hiding in their sheets. The kids capture a few to show their counselors.
Phone rings in the middle of the night. The counselor said, we need to come down there right away. We went down to the building as fast as we possibly could to see what was happening.
And he had 3 bugs. They were bugs I had never seen before. So we did look at them under a microscope. We did some internet searches. And we discovered that what we probably had were bed bugs. I just thought dirty. You know, I thought that they were related to places or situations where you were unclean. And not only that, I also had remembered that there was something having to do with blood.
Bedbugs are going to come out at night to feed, and what they're going to do is they're going to sense the carbon dioxide and heat that we give off. They're going to walk around the room, find us sleeping in the bed, and they're going to stick their mouth parts into our skin and extract blood, which is what their primary food source is.
I knew nothing about bed bugs. I think everybody says the only thing they know about bed bugs is the thing that your mom says to you before you go to sleep at night is, you know, don't let the bed bugs bite. I had absolutely no idea what I was about to encounter.
Bed bugs, not scabies, are the cause of all the itching. And Will and Sandy may have unwittingly made the problem worse. Just a week ago, they moved beds from Lodge 8 around the camp.
Bedbugs have evolved to be extremely successful hitchhikers in that they're going to hitch a ride on a bag or a personal belonging and go from wherever they were to wherever you're going. You may end up spreading the infestation.
First thing the next morning, Will and Sandy call every camper's parents.
Every single one of them was understanding that we were fixing the problem.
The Rubensteins' next call is to an exterminator. They learn treating the problem is going to be radical and expensive, but they're determined to stop the infestation.
Our pest control operator suggested that we throw everything away. All the beds, all the furniture.
We did what they told us to do. We threw away, you know, thousands of dollars worth of furniture and mattresses.
And that was a horrible, horrible feeling. This war with bed bugs wasn't just a professional battle, it was quite personal. There was a combination of sort of sadness and also extreme frustration, because we had been going through this battle with different diagnoses, different strategies, and now we had still failed. It was still a failure, and that was really hard, but ultimately we had failed. And that was it was a sinking kind of feeling.
Later that day, the exterminators arrive with industrial-strength pesticide.
The pest control company sprayed in as many nooks and crannies as they could possibly spray.
The summer camp season is over. Will and Sandy are advised to let the building sit unoccupied over the winter. In theory, the cold weather will kill any of the remaining bugs.
The longer we left it alone, the safer it would be. As we approached the next camp season, we were a little bit nervous.
The Rubensteins have spent thousands of dollars buying new beds and mattresses for the camp.
I wanted to ensure that we absolutely did not have any bugs in camp at the beginning of our season.
We read a story in the local newspaper about a bed bug sniffing dog that was located nearby. So we called him.
The dog arrived just a couple weeks before our summer campers.
Dogs have a very strong sense of smell, and they've been trained to detect a single bed bug or a single bed bug egg.
The handler went through all 15 of our residential buildings.
The dog sniffs out the hidden horrors that Will and Sandy can't see. The inside of the new mattress is teeming with bed bugs.
Many summer camps aren't heated. It exposes bed bugs to extremely cold temperatures, which pushes them into a sort of hibernation phase. That, combined with the fact that they can go up to a year without food, means that bed bugs will make it through the winter with no issue and be waiting for campers to return in the summer.
He indicated that over half of our property was infested.
When I heard him say that, I really felt that pit in the stomach. I remember being angry because it wasn't getting better, it was getting worse. Music
professor Deborah Stein lives alone with her dog Murphy. Her home is a sanctuary, a place to enjoy simple pleasures.
I have to own a house so I can garden. It's the most wonderful thing to do in the spring and the summer. My home is very important for my work. It's important that I can play the piano anytime without having to worry about bothering somebody. We have a great life here.
One afternoon, Deborah notices Murphy behaving strangely.
I began to hear scratching sounds. It sounded was like inside the wall, right near the landing. And her ears would perk up and she would listen. I thought it might be an animal, but as long as it didn't get in the house, I wasn't going to worry about it.
Over the next few days, Murphy grows even more distracted.
Murphy became obsessed. She would spend a lot of time, we're talking, 20 minutes just standing there. That's when I began to think, oh, maybe there's something there, but I still didn't think to worry about it.
But then there's something Deborah can't ignore.
Suddenly, I noticed that there was this foul odor. It was particularly awful. I assumed the smell was because an animal had died, and that I would have to call a company to come and remove it.
The exterminator heads to the source of the sounds and the stench.
We took apart the riser of the top step. And looked underneath the floor. They found a dead rat. I was just appalled.
The exterminator explores deeper into the crawl space beneath the house.
The insulation was covered with rat droppings. It was disgusting.
Rats like to hide in the hardest to reach places. It makes them feel secure, it's a great place for them to have babies, and it's a great place for them to store their food.
Under Deborah's house, there's no concrete base, only dirt. The crawl space is easily accessible. The rats can simply burrow their way in. The exterminator investigates outside. Around Deborah's yard, there are signs of burrowing.
Brown rats are amazing burrowers. They'll create little tunnel systems that allow them to go from home to home, underneath your yard, underneath your garden, and come up into the bottom of your basement. Once they make it into your home, good luck evicting them.
I had no idea there had been so much rat activity. I started to get really frightened that these were in my house. I had a really serious problem.
The exterminator proposes a radical solution to block the rats. A steel barrier to surround and protect Deborah's house.
While rats are great burrowers, they'll only go so deep. And so when they get to the house, when they encounter the barrier, they'll turn around and they'll go to somebody else's house that doesn't have one put in.
Inside, the exterminator sets traps to kill the rats stranded in the crawl space. And they work.
I think we must have captured 2 to 3 dozen rats. That was just a nightmare, but at least maybe that would fix the problem. The pest control chose to use traps because they didn't want animals to die in the house. So the idea is you trap them, you kill them, and then you can take them away. Putting in poison, even in areas where my dog couldn't get, could mean that they would eat the poison and then move someplace else and perhaps die in the house. So we wanted to try to avoid that.
It's pretty unusual to not be able to bring a rat problem under control with trapping. So if you're unsuccessful, you really have to look for alternate ways that the rats are getting into your house.
A week later, the traps are still going off. Deborah realizes more rats are getting in, and they're finding their way into other parts of her house.
I was really frightened. There were rats trying to get through the wall.
Sandy and Will Rubenstein's summer camp is crawling with bedbugs. In just 3 weeks, these lodges are scheduled to be packed with new kids.
The bugs were literally coming out of every tiny little crack and crevice.
A female bedbug can lay 3 to 5 eggs a day and can also lay 300 to 500 eggs over the course of her lifetime. And so if you have, say, 10 adult female bedbugs, you can have thousands of bedbugs in a very short amount of time.
It really hurt because camp is our life and it's our home. It was personal.
Sandy and Will refuse to repeat the ordeal of last summer.
We couldn't possibly chance the risk that any one of these kids would have to deal with those bloodsuckers. We were desperate. We were absolutely desperate, and we would do anything to solve the problem.
It's not just the kids' welfare. The Rubensteins' livelihood is also on the line. Spraying the cabins with pesticides hasn't worked.
Chemical treatment may not be enough to eliminate a bedbug infestation. That chemical needs to come into contact with every bug. If one survives, that problem is going to persist and you may have another problem long-term down the road.
We had no choice but to look for other ways to kill these bugs.
I just got on the phone and I called everybody I possibly could.
Her persistence pays off.
We learned of a camp in California that was having a bedbug problem. They told us that they had used heat to kill bugs.
Heat treatment is one of the most effective treatment options we have for bedbugs. You're going to heat an entire house up to 120 degrees or hotter, and that's going to kill all the bugs and their eggs in a very short amount of time.
But the heat treatment is very expensive. $70,000 to treat the camp. Sandy has a plan. Instead of paying a contractor, she's going to California to learn how to use the equipment herself.
We had already invested tens of thousands of dollars, and this was a further expenditure in the many thousands. It was a financial risk and a bit of a roll of the dice, but at this point, we didn't have another solution and we had to try it.
A week later, with the camp opening imminent, Sandy is back and ready for revenge.
I was just on a mission because I knew we had a short amount of time before the campers arrived at the beginning of the summer.
We fried every building.
We just wanted to make sure that we had gotten every last bug that was in camp.
The tricky thing about bed bugs is they're very hard to see, especially in the daytime. So now all of a sudden we had bugs coming out of multiple beds in the same building, and it was a little bit creepy to see those bugs coming out of our furniture and know that they were our campers that had slept in those beds. It was a little bit scary.
There were lots of bugs. It looked like an exodus.
In 2 days, kids will start arriving for camp. Sandy and Will want to be certain they've defeated the bedbugs. There's one way to find out.
We brought the dog back in to confirm that we had successfully treated everything.
We were nervous.
You put all your hope into getting rid of this. The canine detective gave us an all clear.
It's a good feeling to know that bed bugs die, because up until that point, there was really very little confidence that they were.
With the bugs cooked out of the cabins, the Rubensteins can finally get back to the life they love. In Phoenix, Arizona, Eric Lane and his fiancée Abra have had a nasty surprise. Their apartment is crawling with cockroaches. Clean freak Abra is horrified.
It felt disgusting. Just it creeped me out, made my skin crawl. I was worried that the roaches carry lots of diseases.
Eric doesn't want to take any chances. He calls the building managers for help.
Apartment complex actually had a contract pest guy, and he would come out and spray.
I was very happy to hear that it would be taken care of.
The exterminator places bait traps around the kitchen. The roaches will eat the bait, take it back to their colony, and then die.
Cockroaches are cannibalistic, and another cockroach will feed on the cockroach that died of the exposure and then die itself.
For an extra measure of protection, the exterminator douses the apartment in pesticides. Nothing should survive this.
I talked to the pest control guy. He told me that if we kept up with the bait traps, we kept up with spraying, that it would take care of the problem.
The treatment works.
By day 3 after spraying, you got dead roaches here, there, everywhere. Hey, great, this is working. You know, they're dying.
Over the next few weeks, Abra gets back to her usual routine. Then, she notices a familiar sight.
The dirt piles, there's tons of it.
It's not the first time granules of dirt have mysteriously appeared in the kitchen.
We were starting to get confused where they were coming from.
Still kept cleaning, and then we clean it up, and we have to clean it up again.
By this point, I've realized there was something wrong. It's not dirt. It's roach crap.
It's evidence that there are still live roaches in their apartment. Eric calls the exterminator back and arranges for him to visit every week from now on. The strategy works, and their home is roach-free by mid-December. Eric has to travel for work, so he leaves Abra and the kids with her mom. Abra's planning a big holiday dinner.
So the night before, we bought 2 hams. We bought like 15 pounds of potatoes. We had goodies galore. We got everything out of the ovens. And we go back to the kitchen. And we have roaches all over everything.
Eric returns to more roaches than ever. The extermination isn't working.
By this point, I realized it's an infestation. On a daily basis, it was wake up, have breakfast with the roaches, spend the day with the roaches, go to bed with the roaches. By this point, they're already infested in my electronics, my TV, my cable box, my computer.
They were coming out of the outlets. They were everywhere.
We were just dumbfounded.
Eric and Abra contemplate escape.
We had been talking about moving, but we didn't really have the money at the time.
Financially, we were pretty much like broke, penniless, basically.
All of their savings are tied up in their security deposit.
We can't really go anywhere else. We were feeling pretty trapped.
Eric and Abra can't figure out how the roaches are surviving the weekly pesticide treatments. But Eric has noticed that the apartment building has an unusually high turnover of tenants. It's made him suspicious.
If my apartment's infested, somebody else is gonna have some kind of problem.
In a cockroach infestation, if you're not treating the source, you're not going to get rid of your problem. So you need to figure out where the cockroaches are coming from.
Eric pays the management company a visit.
I said, okay, you know what, let's just bomb the apartment, bomb every apartment. Well, they weren't gonna do that because the management said it was too expensive to do that.
Eric decides to shock his landlords into action.
we were gonna have to prove that this barn was infested.
He takes the evidence back to the building manager.
They said, hey, hey, we'll just keep spraying, we'll keep spraying, we'll keep spraying. That'll take care of the problem. At this time, I'm starting to get really frustrated that this problem's not going away.
Having lost faith in their approach, Eric takes matters into his own hands. With the kids safely out of the way, he declares war on the roaches.
We dropped 6 bombs in 600 square feet, which is an overkill, but that's what we needed to do. Came back home after 4.5 hours, and then there's tons of dead roaches, and we were very happy. Hey, we got rid of the problem, end of story, no more problems for anybody. It was about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. When I was hungry, I didn't really eat anything that day, so I got up. Went into the kitchen to go make a sandwich. So I turned on the light, and these are roaches. They were everywhere.
For months, rats have been burrowing into Deborah Stein's crawl space. Despite a steel barrier protecting her home, somehow, more rodents are getting in.
It wasn't just that they're running around in my basement. They were underneath the floor. They were in the walls. And there were a lot of them.
The invading rats are traveling inside the walls of her house.
I was always waiting for a scratching sound, for a horrible smell. I was reluctant to have my friends come, like it wasn't a good place.
It is costing her thousands of dollars to control the expanding colony.
I didn't have that kind of money to spend, and that's one of the reasons why I actually started to do as much as I could by myself.
Taking matters into her own hands is a desperate strategy.
You never get used to finding dead rats. Sometimes they were huge. Usually they were dead, but sometimes they weren't quite dead. The big rats were just grotesque. It was horrible.
No matter how many Deborah kills, they just keep coming.
I felt terrorized. How can this be?
She's feeling isolated and alone. But at least the rats are confined to the walls and the crawl space.
I was sitting in the kitchen, eating. A rat walked across the floor. That was just shocking. A nightmare. I had never imagined I would see a rat walk across my kitchen floor.
The rats have broken through the walls.
If you don't control your rat population, then you're going to have little scout rats running around. They're looking for new territories for them to expand their colony into.
At night, under the weight of their own numbers, the rats spill out into the house. Deborah's only refuge is her bedroom.
The rats were taking over my home.
She fears she's losing the battle and her mind.
I felt tormented. I can't take this anymore. This is too much. I felt unsafe. I was really terrified. But leaving was just not an option. I didn't want the rats to win. I had no idea where the rats were coming from. At this point, we had put 3 different sets of barriers in the house so that the complete house, complete perimeter, was protected, and yet they were still coming. I began to realize that my dog and I were in real trouble.
Unable to defeat the rat infestation alone, Deborah calls the pest control company again and talks to the general manager. George Williams comes out to investigate.
In this particular situation, there was something else going on. We had to look at the bigger picture. We know that the barrier used around Deb's house went down 2 feet in order to prevent the rats from burrowing.
Since the rats can't burrow past metal, they must be getting into the house another way.
Maybe we have an issue with the pipe system.
Broken and cracked sewage pipes can act as a rat superhighway into a home. But exterminators have found a clever way to use smoke to trace underground pipes and reveal any breaks in the system.
The process is quite simple. They matter of just putting a liquid smoke inside a machine and blow the smoke through the septic system. If it comes out in the middle of your yard, if it comes out in your basement, or it comes out in your house, then you know that you have a problem with your pipe system. And the rats are taking advantage of it.
If smoke finds its way into Deborah's house, that means she's got an open line from the sewer into her home.
At this point, I didn't believe anything would work, so I was very wary. But I also was hopeful because something had to give. It just had to stop. There was all these men standing around in the house waiting for smoke to appear.
Finally, the answer.
It came pouring out. It was just amazing. It was huge.
There was about a 4-inch pipe that was uncapped, and the rats were coming through that pipe.
It was clear that was the problem.
In the crawl space below the house is a second uncapped pipe. Rats have been entering the house through these sewer pipes for years.
This explained everything. It was unbelievable. I was ecstatic. I was just amazed. There's a part of me that wasn't going to get my hopes up too high. But what a feeling. Oh my God, this could be it.
The 2 open pipes are capped, and Deborah's prayers are answered.
That's when I started to feel like maybe this is it. Maybe it's over.
The rats are gone.
This was the light at the end of the tunnel for solving this rat problem, or the smoke at the end of the tunnel, should I say.
On the other side of the country, in Phoenix, Arizona, an endless tide of roaches is invading Eric and Abra's apartment. None of the treatments is working. To add to their misery, Eric receives some terrible news.
My father died January 11th. January 16th, day of the funeral.
In their haste to leave for the funeral, a container of baby formula spills on the kitchen floor.
You know what I say? We're going to be late to the funeral, so just leave it. I'll take care of it when we get home.
They return to find a letter from the management company. While they were away, management has visited, and they found the spilled baby formula.
I get a notice on my door saying, hey, you got 5 days to clean this mess up, or we're gonna break your lease and we're gonna kick you out of your apartment. And that thoroughly just ticked me off. I went down to the office and I told them my father had just passed away. This was the day of the funeral. I wasn't gonna be late to my father's funeral. You guys have been up to my apartment 100 times before. There's never a mess up there. And he said, this is your problem. We're not gonna take care of it. We're gonna charge you for all the bugging. And we're not gonna do anything.
A few days later, Eric and Abra start to notice a change in their daughter's health.
My daughter Chloe, she'd wake up in the middle of the night just screaming her head off. She started getting sick, runny nose, earaches, throw out eggs, just in general, she started getting miserable.
Chloe was just a cranky baby all the time. It was not normal. Our daughter's normally happy-go-lucky. Chloe was getting more worried.
Abra is shocked when her doctor reveals her daughter's illness could be caused by allergens in roach feces.
Children have an increased risk of exposure because they are more likely to put things in their mouth. Cockroaches can carry all kinds of diseases like hepatitis, typhoid fever, bloody diarrhea.
The doctor prescribes antibiotics to help fight Chloe's infections. With all their money tied up in the security deposit, Abra and Eric are trapped in roach hell. While the cash-strapped young family tries to figure out the next move, Abra does her best to keep a close watch on her children. But it's impossible to guard them 24/7.
My daughter, Chloe, she comes in, she goes, "Here." And she's got a roach in her hand.
Cockroaches are filthy, disgusting creatures that walk all over places, that carry garbage and human waste, and then walk into your home and spread that waste all over your house.
I could be stuck there and I could live with them, but not my kids. That was my breaking point.
Obviously, our measures aren't doing anything. Nobody cares what's going on in this apartment.
Abra and Eric inform the management company they're leaving.
You guys can have the apartment. I'm not paying rent. I'm not paying you guys another dime. You couldn't get me out of the place fast enough.
They sacrifice their deposit and take the kids to stay with relatives while they save for another apartment.
Cockroaches have been around for 200 million years, and they're one of the most successful group of organisms that we have here on our planet. They're going to exploit our behaviors, the way we feed, the way we live inside of our homes. And they actually aren't found naturally in the environment outside of where we live.
I take such great lengths to protect my kids. I'm not going to let them live in a roach-infested hellhole.